everyone. It's great to be here. My name's Richard Stinear. I'm the head of engineering for Plexure. And I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about what we do. We optimize transactions in the real world. No? Okay. We're a bit like e-commerce, but for physical retail. So if you imagine all the things you can do these days on websites with targeting content, promoting content to individuals that's most relevant to them, we can do that in the physical retail space. So using beacons, we can tell when you've entered the store, send you a personalised push message, maybe update some display content in store that's more relevant to you, and push content to your phone that's very specific to your interests. If there's one thing I want to convey in this very short talk, it's that for us, serverless is more than just a cool new compute thing or an amazing new concept on the architectural landscape. For us, it's actually enabling a whole new category of features for our customers. And for us, that's a really significant thing that serverless is really bringing to us. But before I get that, I have to kind of talk to you about the big challenge that we're trying to solve. So as most of you working in software organizations of some sort can probably relate to, there's one overriding challenge in every business that always gets us. It's customers. They always want something you don't have. And for us, this is a really significant thing. You know, we've got a microservices architecture, we've got continuous delivery, we can push out features in a couple of days, but it still comes wrapped with this whole phased thing where you need some requirements, you need people to review the requirements, you've got testing at the end, all those sorts of things, you've got ops handover. We wanted a way that we could leverage serverless to provide features for our customers which required zero code deployment. And so I'm really not going to define, again, serverless for you, because I think we've probably heard that a few times. But at the end there, that very thin layer that serverless represents, it's like the thinnest kind of execution part of the abstraction and what we're doing in terms of hosting software that we've ever come across. It's so thin, in fact, that we can now automate and provide rails for our customers to put their own code into our platform. And we've introduced this concept that just like they can upload images for their offers or their loyalty cards or the text that goes into push message, now they can manage code as content in our platform. And that, for us, is a really powerful thing because it means that at last our customers can do the things that only they've ever thought of, the things which give them that last mile customization in our platform. And I'm actually going to take you through a little demo to show you what that looks like. This is one part of our platform which is about designing experiences or workflows. This is all actually backed by Logic Apps. And I'm going to just quickly put together a store entry flow. So the store entry trigger is, this is simulation, but it's in production that would be hooked up to an actual beacon entry into our store. We're going to get the weather at that store, and we're going to take the store ID from that entry. We're going to put some text into the body of an SMS that we're going to send. Whoops. Welcome to the store on this day. And we're going to send it to a number. I'm going to use my own if anyone wants it. Now's your time. We're going to save that. And all this is doing actually in the back end is using obviously another serverless technology that we heard a little bit about yesterday, which is Azure Logic Apps. And it's basically composing in a Logic App definition and throwing it up into the cloud. Get that all enabled and then give it a go. So I'm going to stand here with my phone, like, oh, no, that's not it. Oh, no, hang on. Got to actually run it. Sorry, the slow internet got me. Hang on. So I call myself Rich and dummy store ID. All right, so that's running. And I'm going to stand here like, I guess, the Statue of Liberty in some dystopian future. And wait. That wasn't it, that was another tweet. Yes, that worked. Thank goodness. If anyone needs the proof, they can come and see me afterwards. If you want to see that up close, it's a pretty amazing text message. So what's under the hood? So where does serverless fit into this? So these actions here are, of course, all functions, Azure functions. In fact, we can go to where this one was configured. Got special permission to allow you to see the complicated machine learning algorithm that's driving this get weather. We could actually change this to freezing, which is more like what the weather's like in this auditorium most of the time. And run that. It just has to save it and re-provision it up. And the internet's slightly slow here. Here we go. So that's just changed it. It's automatically updated it. It's back up there. If we were to run that workflow again, you'd get a different text message. So that's how easy it is for our customers, okay, to change a bit of naughty text. But if they wanted to call out to some of their own services from this extension, do their own things, compose a different response, maybe call out to some exotic API that's part of their platform, which we don't support natively, and so on. And really, I'm showing you this not because I'm showing off how cool our coding is in functions, clearly. I'm showing it off because it's actually just so easy. It was using Azure functions, because it's all open source, we could understand how they'd done their design surface, so it was really easy for us just to actually literally rip off bits of it and stick it in here, and use that as a way to provide this whole new set of things for our customers. Now there's one extension, which is the one that was sent the SMS, which isn't in here, and that's because we haven't added support for bindings yet. But anyone who heard any of the Azure talks yesterday, the bindings is a really cool feature. So that send SMS one even has less code, and it's more useful because it's just setting the bindings on that message object that's going out. Under the hood in Azure, it's already wired up to a Twilio connector. So Microsoft's taking care of all the rails for getting it to Twilio, which is great. So we can literally send a text message from that workflow with only a few lines of code. I think that's really a significant optimization, I suppose, for us. We want to deliver business features quickly, and I think one of the great themes that's come out over the last day of this conference has been about speed of delivery that serverless enables, and for us that's really exciting, and we're trying to make the most of it. So I'm going to flick back to my presentation now. So for us, apart from that speed of getting to market with new stuff, serverless, and especially in this context, we've got loads of opportunities. So the next thing is for us is to potentially, we haven't really settled on it yet, but either create an SDK or a DSL that runs as a function to allow customers to very easily interact with our microservices that are kind of internal, but we will surface them for them to use. That'll allow them to do things like get offer content or get targeting information and re-segment consumers and all sorts of things. As part of that, we will need to put in things like retry, more monitoring, which is more relevant to the customer. So we've got App Insights integration, so we can see as developers exactly what's happening in our functions, but we're going to need something that's a little bit more visible to customers, so we're going to need to skin that somehow. The one I'm most excited about, and is probably the most obvious, is that we want to bring this experience, this ability for customers to configure their own data pipeline code and surface that in our UI as well, so that they can have some event stream which we've got no understanding about, they can stand up their own ingress point, which is really just standing up a function which accepts stuff, and build in all of the different parts of the pipeline and eventually emit data out into our reporting layer where they can do their own reports and even correlate that data with our first-class data that comes from our platform. Our vision is to make all of that completely configurable through a user interface without any code deployments. And we think by doing that, it means that at last our customers will be satisfied, which is, I'm still skeptical about that one, but we'll see what happens when we get there. The other opportunity really is satisfying the COO or the CTO. So I think one of the challenges we've always had is around this capacity planning issue. I think a lot of naivety, I think, in the early days of the cloud was that it was going to be a limitless fabric. Unfortunately, the CTO was quite disappointed when that still meant having to figure out the numbers of VMs that you need to run stuff on, or the number of scale units if you're using something a little bit more abstract. So I think there's a real opportunity here with Serverless for us to finally deliver on that goal of zero sunk cost and infinite scale. But of course, it comes with some challenges. So we've kind of started on this route to providing people with the ability to put their own code, but does that mean we're actually building an IDE? Are we going to try and replicate everything that's gone before us in terms of how you create online coding environments? I don't know. That's one we need to figure out. We need to figure out how far we're going to take this. Clearly, if you're providing access to customers to put their own code up, they're probably going to do some stupid stuff. We're going to need to figure out how to protect ourselves against that. It's bad enough having to deal with our own developers' stupid stuff, but when customers have a go as well, it can lead to chaos. And the last challenge, again, is satisfying the COO and the CTO. It's a blessing and a curse. We've used this in production for maybe 200 or 300 requests a second. Our main consumer-facing APIs typically run at about 6,000 to 7,000 requests a second from some of our biggest customers. And we have not yet put a function in front of those APIs or involved them in that request pipeline. We will at some point. It's definitely going to happen, but I'll feel much more comfortable about the infinite scale aspiration once we've done that successfully. And of course, it's a new technology. I think it's easy to forget, especially when you're in a conference surrounded by people who are really excited about this technology, how new it really is. So I'm sure there's going to be some interesting challenges intrinsic to the technology itself that we need to deal with. One of the reasons, as I alluded to before, that this was so easy, and I do want to stress the fact that the amount of work that it took to be able to surface Azure functions like this to allow us to provide that as a thing for our customers was actually really quick. When you look at the amount of sheer amount of stuff that's on GitHub around Azure functions, there's loads. All of the repos are there. You can look through any of the code. It's always fun, actually, when you're on stage to go and look at issue logs. Hang on. See if there's any howlers in there. Not putting XML in the body, probably a problem if you're a bank. What else? Service bus trigger stops consuming subscription. It's not too bad, I must say. Last time I did this last week, there were some more heinous ones in there. But it's always great to see how open and transparent everything is across all of the Azure function code, which has made it, as I say, really easy for us to get it in there. So what's coming up next for us in the Azure function space that gets us out of bed in the morning? Custom binding. So I showed you that SMS binding, which makes sending push messages a real piece of cake. Custom bindings means that we can roll our own bindings and make it super simple to bind to stuff. So that means for that data pipeline concept, if we've got, I don't know, maybe we've got Elasticsearch or something, and part of a customer's function needs to update an index, so they have that available to some other part of the reporting or some other part of the solution, we'll be able to create our own binding and make that really easy for customers to leverage. And that will be in a domain-specific way, so they won't know it's Elasticsearch necessarily, but they'll know that suddenly their function has one line, which means that they get access to, they can unlock a whole set of reporting features off that search index. So they're really cool. Better IDE support. We saw some great stuff yesterday in terms of the debug process. And lastly, as my zero out, better programmatic deployment. So we're looking forward to having much more control over how we manipulate our function apps in the cloud. Those are all things that we need next. And that's it. Thanks very much for listening.